We're rolling whenever you're ready.
Hey there, I am Doc Del Rey, and with me is Matt the producer. And this is the first episode of what I hope to be many called Roll for Perception. Uh, Basically, this is just going to be me rambling about things I've done playing random tabletop games. Hopefully, pass on some decent advice for people just getting into it. Looking for any tips or ideas or just general things like that that might help them in their games or help them run games of their own. Uh, for a while, I've actually been doing this with a small community online, basically coaching them, helping them come up with games, concepts, and learning systems. And one day, one of them actually told me that I should just do something like this, and this is actually something I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm a big fan of shows like Counter Monkey, which, if you've ever heard of either Noah Antweiler or the Spoonie one, it's actually a really good show, and I've been kind of wanting to do something like that for a while now. And, well, this is my attempt at it. So a quick little boring history on tabletop and how it all kind of started out. Not a lot of people know it actually started out as a war game played a long time ago by like officers and enlisted men, where they would take little tin soldiers and reenact battles, and they'd use dice rolls to kind of supplement the randomness of combat. And that kind of evolved into something else where people started doing it with like medieval, little medieval characters, like having knights and archers and lines of cavalry and stuff like that. And then one day, Gary Gygax and some other guys took it a step further, where they decided, what if we were playing the individuals on the battlefield, not just commanding an entire army? And from there, they pushed it even further by adding things from like Lord of the Rings and such, where you started having like wizards and hobbits and elves and all this other crazy stuff. Well, they're not called hobbits in any Dungeons and Dragons game. They're halflings. It's always the halflings. Or if you're playing a hardcore dwarf, a harflin. You want to laugh. You know you can like join in at any time if you want.
I don't know anything about this, so I'm going to leave the expertise up to you.
The harflins. Well, I figured for this first episode, I'd do that quick info dump, and just to make it look like I know what I'm talking about. And then, well, a little advice, the obvious one: how do you get started in tabletop? Like, just games in general and things like that. Well, to be honest, the easiest way is to see whether or not there are people already playing around where you live. Like, I can guarantee that if you have a comic book shop or a hobby shop anywhere near you, there's a game going on at that shop. There's probably a game once a day. I'm not saying like it's the same group of people. That's some freaking dedication and lack of a life. Which I'm probably going to get flamed now for saying that. But yeah, it's probably not going to be the same people every single day, but I'm sure you can find a game going on at those stores on any given day. And depending on how cool these people are with like new people jumping in, you can get in on those games. I'm sure they'd let you if they don't have like 8 or 10 people already playing. which is an obscene amount, and I don't understand how people can play with that big of a group. Just such a huge cluster. Uh, but yeah, you can find a game, and they would probably be more than happy to bring you in, show you how to play, teach you the basics, and get you brought up to speed with the rest of the team. But let's say you don't want to do that. You don't want to go out to the comic book shop and like ask random neckbeards, "Hey, do you play D&D?" That's right, I can make that joke.
You can make that kind of joke about yourself.
Hey, I have a well-groomed beard.
Is that what you call one?
It's better than yours.
I'm off today, so
Off day, just like every day.
yep.
But yeah, another good way is if you're in college or anything like that, I guarantee you there is a group of people at your school that are playing. They probably have a club and meet on a weekly basis to play. You can find them. It's not hard. I heard that the college around here actually has a dedicated LARP group that run around on campus and play their game like once a week. And I mean that's a whole nother thing. I'm probably not going to get into LARP anytime soon because I don't LARP. And I have my reasons for it. But I mean, if that's your bag, cool, man. Cool beans. But if you're like the super introverted type, there is also just going online. And you can easily find games where people are playing over like Skype or some other instant messenger like that. And I've actually been running a game over Skype for a while now. And I was actually playing it at some point too. And aside from that, there's also like online map programs and things like that that you can use to supplement things like the board and tokens, rolling dice, everything. A really good one I found and love is Roll20. Roll20.com. Plug in it. And you can do all kinds of stuff on that program. They've got a nice big, kind of easy to learn, I want to say moderately easy to learn map system where you can build your own map, set up a fog of war, so you can be that guy that's like, yeah, you can only see 30 feet in front of you, so whip. You can set up all kinds of things like hide enemies or traps, which I love hiding traps. I'm a trap and puzzle kind of guy. I'm so old school when it comes to that shit. But yeah, there's plenty of places you can find. And if it comes down to it, just talk to your friends. Get a couple of them together, sit down, and see whether or not they want to do this. Because there's a good chance you could get a good, dedicated game going with your buddies. And, well, I guess in that same vein, the next bit of advice is find out what it is you want to play. Because I'm not going to lie, these games do take a bit of time and some dedication. I'm not saying like this is your life. No, that's weird. Don't be that guy. Never be that guy. This is your hobby that you do for fun now. That's all it should ever really be. But yeah, just like sit down with your friends maybe and look at some of the games that are out there and everybody decide, what do you guys want to do? I mean, do you want to do a sword and sorcery kind of fantasy game? Do you want to do like a high magic kind of game? Like, do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? Do you want to play a gritty Pathfinder game? Do you want to do a murder slog through a Hackmaster? Do you want to do some kind of like science fiction game? There's a lot of good science fiction systems out there. One I love, which discontinued a few years back, was the Star Wars Saga system, and I highly recommend that for anybody that wants to do a science fiction kind of game. That and that actually gets the other thing. If you don't want to do Star Wars, you don't have to play it as Star Wars. If you The whole thing with tabletop is using your imagination. And just using that, you can take any system and turn it into whatever you want. You don't have to go by what the setting says it is. You can use the Star Wars, one of the many Star Wars systems that are out there, be it sagas or maybe the West End or the straight up D20 version. You can use them. You can use their rule sets on things like ranged combat, space combat, all that stuff, and just utilize it for your own science fiction game. It doesn't have to be Star Wars. It doesn't have to be Dungeons and Dragons. You can use the Dungeons and Dragons rule set, make up your own fantasy world, reskin the races, and just go off on your own personal adventure. I mean, you can use that system and cut magic out completely. That's the beauty of tabletop role-playing games, and one of the things I love about it is that if you're creative, then it's like a big, awesome playground where you can just make anything happen. But so yeah, definitely like at some point, if this is something you want to do and you find out that your friends want to do it too, then a really good thing you can do actually is in this situation, get everybody together. All of you get together, go to the comic book shop, go to the hobby store, wherever these game books are sold. Go there, and everybody just look around, browse through all the games, see if there's one that catches everyone's attention. That's something that you all want to do. And then, because that's the other downside to this, is that it can be expensive depending on what you're doing. Because, I mean, these publishers, they got to make money. This is how they keep their businesses afloat. They come up with these rule sets. They print the books. They're putting all of their time and money into making these things, making the products for it, and then putting them in shops to sell them. And there can be like a lot of supplement books for one system because they need to keep trying to make money to basically make sure that this system that they put out stays relevant. But yeah, just like go to the hobby shop, go to the comic book store, look around. Everybody look for whatever game that catches your eye, and then see whether or not everybody would want to play it. And when you find the one that you all want to play, then throw in. Like everybody throw in a couple of bucks and get the base books. Like I said just a minute ago, there are lots of supplement books out there. Like 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons has so many supplement books. And like I said, they kept having to put that out so they could keep the system going and keep it relevant. It's like an MMO. If you don't put out expansions, if you don't patch it and add new quests and storylines and things like that, people are going to get bored and they're not going to want to play. They're going to move on to something else, and then you lose all the money that you invested in this. So yeah, definitely look around, find the base books. Don't go for the supplements, just find the base books, because when you get into that, then you're going to end up drowning yourself in all these different rules and mechanics that are going to be really overwhelming. And that's usually something that scares lots of people away, is when they look at something like Pathfinder, which hasn't been out as long as 3.5, but it's kind of become almost the same monster, where you've got these tons and tons of different books adding all these new rules, all these new classes, races, and oh man, just the bloat. The bloat is so horrible with some of these systems. But it's up to you, the players, and the people trying to run it, to just basically say, okay, here's the cutoff, and just stick to something simple and easy. So yeah, you go to the game shop, look around, find the base books of whatever it is that all of you feel like playing. Everybody chip in, buy the books, buy some dice if you don't have any already, and then sit down, read them, and learn how to play. It's pretty simple. I mean, a lot of you don't have to get like super into things like maps. Well, I mean, you need maps, but I mean, like getting like the big tile maps with all the fancy printed stuff on them, or getting the super cool customized minis and things like that. I started playing back with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Old school, motherfuckers. Real old school. And back when we started playing, we didn't have that fancy of a map system. We didn't have a bunch of customized figurines and things like that. What we had was a sheet of graph paper that had been laminated, so that we could draw on it and erase it. And for figures, we had a mixed bowl, a literal bowl, with a bunch of like random pewter figurines and stuff inside. And we just like grab whatever looked close enough and be like, okay, this is my guy. He's got a bow, so yeah, that's me. I mean, our illusionist, he ended up using the little pewter Emperor Palpatine figure that came with the Star Wars Monopoly game, because that was in the bowls for some reason. So yeah, he was Emperor Palpatine, and it fit so horribly well. But I'll get into that story and a whole lot of other ones some other time. Right now is advice time. So yeah, you don't have to worry about spending money on tons and tons of stuff. I mean, if you don't want to go like super all out, you could always hit up some place like Half Price Books. Even they have tons of these books because, like I said, there are so many of them, especially with old systems. You can go to a place like Half Price Books or whatever is in your area that's like that, where people just like bring in their old stuff, sell it, and then other people come by and buy it back. I guarantee you will find all kinds of role-playing game books at these kind of stores. You can probably find the entire library for the 3.5 system. I mean, given the number of, given the obscene amount of material that they printed for it, it can be found. It shouldn't be that hard. But if you're new to this stuff, and this is the other problem with getting started, is the fact that nobody ever wants to run the game. Everyone wants to play, nobody wants to run it. There's very seldom a time when you run into somebody that's like, I just want to DM. I just want to run the game. I don't want to play. It doesn't happen. Well, it doesn't happen often. I'm sure there are people out there that say that and think that. But it doesn't happen often because everybody wants to be the hero. Everybody wants to be the guy who goes off on the adventure. Or goes with the adventurers or something like that. You almost never find somebody that's like, I want to run the adventure. And to be honest, it's really hard starting out. If you don't know what you're doing, if you've never played or had a game run, then it's going to be difficult. You're going to run into a lot of problems. And I've been there. I've seen plenty of people end up there. As far as this goes, best advice I can give you is find somebody who's done this before. Talk to them. Get their advice. Get some mentoring. You know, I learned from the person who ran our Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game, Mom. She, not really my mom. Yeah, you gave me that look. No, it was my friend Dylan's mom. We all call her Mom because we pretty much lived at her house for well over a decade, really. So we just called her Mom. And Mom was a harsh but fair DM. And I eventually, when I started wanting to run games of my own, she tutored me, gave me advice, and I would come to her with questions like, okay, I have players that are wanting to do this, but I don't want that to happen because then it's going to screw everything up. And she'd just be like, okay, well, here's what you could do. Just trick them into doing this, and then they think it's their choice to go do what you wanted. You're like, wow, okay. And it would work. I mean, ask questions. Go online. Hit up a forum. Reddit. Reddit's got a huge D&D community. Talk to them. They'll give you all kinds of advice on how to run things, how to hide traps, how to trick your players into doing what you actually want them to do. All in all, I guess the moral of this long-winded story is it's not as hard as you think. it's actually a lot easier to get into these games than people believe. And it's that misconception that it's a bunch of weird creepers hiding in a basement wearing wizard cloaks and hats and talking in funny voices that just like it just repels people from the idea of trying these really fun games. When in reality, it's not that stupid stereotype that you see on stupid sitcoms and stuff like that. It's not that stupid crap that you see on like The Big Bang Theory. 90% of the time, these games are just friends hanging out, drinking some beers, rolling some dice. Just playing a game and having a good time. And that's what it should be. Because in the end, that it's a role-playing game. So yeah, just go out. Make some friends. Have some fun. I think that's about all I can really talk about right now without getting into a bunch of different tangents and stories. I hope that this will help some people out there. And here's hoping you guys come back for more. I'm Doc Del Rey, and across from me is Matt the producer. Say goodnight, Matt.
Good night, Matt.